I want to share a story of how this journal came to be. There once was a girl who lived in a different time long ago. She had a carefree spirit with a deep love of nature and dreamed of becoming a botanist one day. She would spend all her free time exploring the miles of land around her, stopping often to admire all the beauty it held. She absolutely loved listening to the birds sing and the trickling sounds of a nearby stream, while she picked the prettiest flowers to press inside a book that she always carried with her wherever she went. This is Elowyn, and I wanted to create a journal that reflected what her special book of treasures would hold. I wanted to bring to life everything that she would have stuck inside, everything that she thought was so special and that she wanted to keep. And so that's how this book came to be. I selected an old book called Flowers of the Field and thought it was absolutely perfect and something that she would have carried. And I filled it with original pages from the book, pressed flowers, and beautiful images. So come along with me as we explore this book together. So on the front here, I added this pretty floral charm, and I tied it with a sari ribbon that really matched that floral postcard on the front. The floral postcard is original, along with it's mounted to a cabinet card. And then here's my embroidery. I just love how that, turned out, all those different pinks. They just really look good against the green. And then on the back is authentic wallpaper. Heather does have a digital for that in one of her Christmas kits. And then, of course, the beautiful side view. I mean, it's just so beautiful. I just love how it turned out. And I actually wasn't going to use the sari, and then I just couldn't help myself. I was like, this is perfect. It has to be there. So I just love it. So here's another little bit of a view there. And the gold that I kind of put around the edges. There's the top. She's so pretty. And you can see the title there, Flowers of the Field. I just love her. So inside, she has this gorgeous pocket on the front with that beautiful cameo charm there. And a pretty tab that I did a little bit of embroidery on. And the main kits I used were the Botanist, because that is perfect. I added a laminated flower there on the front and just stitched around it. And then in the pocket here, you'll see another image back there and just kind of the roughness of the book and the condition, that it was kind of in. But that's kind of the look throughout. So here's a tag from her kit. And then I did a embossing on a paint chip. And then that's the title of the actual book that I used. I added that piece down there on this brown paper bag that I had, basically resized from a really large paper bag that it was. And here's Elowyn, a snapshot of her. And I mounted it on this old wallpaper. So you can take the photo out and utilize the wallpaper. I just love how pretty that is. And then like a little journal card. And all the names should pop up of the different kits that I used, except for the main ones of the Botanist and the pressed flowers and the antique botanical prints, because I use those completely throughout. So I added pockets here. And I basically used scraps that I had. That's from the actual book. There's the tab. I embossed a tag here. This is from the kit, the Botanist. And I framed it. And a handmade paper butterfly that I did. And so that writing in the middle, the French writing, that's from an authentic document. And then the others are scraps. I love to use up scraps whenever I possibly can, and they're perfect for, pockets amongst other things. But you can never have enough pockets. You just need pockets. And I made this out of one of the images, and I just mounted it to an old envelope that had seen better days. And then there is my handmade paper. And then that is from the book. And then I just added some different images in here. So I stitched, a little corner pocket there. And then these are clipped at the top. I won't undo the clip, but you can kind of see. So that image there, the fern leaves, is from the kit. And then there's an authentic document behind it. A nice little area to journal in there, or add a pressed flower, or, whatever you want to do. So throughout the book, it really looks, very similar to what this page spread does. Just everything, that would have been collected and taped and pressed and just added to this book in a non-frilly kind of way. Here's a real pressed flower there. And then obviously behind it, you could, add more flowers or add some writing behind it. So these are the actual original flower plates. And in front of them, I added some tissue, which is really just like a tracing paper. You can tear that off if you want to, or you can press a flower, on top or behind it. The plates can all be actually removed. They're just adhered, and you can see this one's lifted a bit, but they're just all adhered to the page behind it. So they can be taken off. You could make tags out of them, use them elsewhere, in the book. They're just absolutely beautiful. And then I utilized another floral book to add other images. I feel like Elowyn would have done that. She would have just taped things in and glued things down and just things to look back through. And then there's other book plate, floral book plates that are just kind of scattered throughout. So I think that's so pretty on the tissue. And then I used this tissue from like the tissue that goes between postcards and just kind of taped it all together for this dried flower that I did. Making sure I'm in frame. So those smaller images, those are the ones that are from the antique botanical prints. I love all these tags in the Botanist kit. They're so perfect. And the majority of them are all just backed with just, packaging paper or bags or whatever. That's perfect for those sorts of things. There's an authentic piece of ephemera, and so is this. This is a French document. The watermark is beautiful, and all of those little holes were already in it. So it's a beautiful piece of paper to use to press flowers on, or, make tags with. Lots of options. And I just kind of taped down that pocket. I added tracing paper like to the back of it and just left it everything really simple. Like what she would have had was simple things to use with just, tape and glue. And then there's the tissue again. And another image, floral plate, more book page. And then these are images from the actual book as well. And I just mounted them onto like packaging paper. I just did some fun stitching. I try to use everything that I possibly can. So I used like pink thread and green thread. That was really fun to do. And then I really have this great idea, like any of the images in there, if you happen to have the flower and you press it, you can like attach it. Now, I don't think this particular pressed one is what that image is, but it kind of looks similar. So I thought, oh, this looks really good here. So I added it to that. And this is an actual document, French document. It's like from like the 1668. Can you believe how old that is? And then I've parted with it. I decided I'm not going to hoard anymore. I'm just going to use all the beautiful things because why not? That's what we need to do. We should use, or I should anyway. You do what you want. And then the other side of that stitching there. And some more just like fun, like I just love the whole feel of this. Using, what I had around me. This is really my vibe right here. I love that, using the leftover like whole reinforcement paper. That's me right there in a nutshell. And I love that I used tons and tons of pages from the original book. There's 5 signatures in this. And so 3 of the signatures start with the images from the Botanist. So here is a pretty little charm. I believe that is Tim Holtz. And then I added the pocket on the other side of that. I love how that looked. So I just kind of pieced together different like sari and fabric. I just feel like those are different bits that Elowyn would have done, little bits from, a dress or a trim or an apron or something, or something that she treasured that she would add. And she would add it in that such a way. And then I added that to the back because of the E. The monogram, that's from the monogram kit. I don't think I actually put that label on there, but that's from the monogram kit. And then I made this bag. So how cute is that? I laminated those flowers and then I added it to the bag. And then I just made kind of like a rustic little tag from the scraps from the book. All of these floral book plates are so pretty. I just love them. And this is an authentic piece of wallpaper. This is the same wallpaper that Elowyn's photo on the front is attached to. So there's another piece to do something with. And then the back was from the back of like a postcard booklet. But I just love that aging and how that looks like a frame. And I think it would just be absolutely stunning with a pressed flower on it. I made this pretty tag. Isn't that so cute? So I just love how these flowers turned out. And these are not laminated. They're actually layered between tape. So I just think they're so pretty. I just love it. And so it's got, it's not rigid. It's got like a little bit of a squishy feel to it. So absolutely beautiful with my handmade paper. The colors look so good. Look how good that is. So I included this Western Union telegram because the brown is just so beautiful and it really makes things pop out. So whether you stencil on it or use some texture paste or, add a dried flower, it would be beautiful. This paper here is so pretty. It like matches that wallpaper so well. And this is some sort of like poem that must have been written for Joseph and Corinne. And I just love the paper. I think, and it's a really good durable paper. I'll show the watermark there in a minute. I'll flip it over so you can see it. But it's just, I love old paper. It's just so good, isn't it? So that's why I included that. And then that pocket is made up of an authentic French ledger page. And then I added that beautiful trim on the side. I just think it is so pretty. So this here is actually an image of a fuchsia and a pressed flower of a fuchsia. So I think that's just such a neat, it just looks neat. I really like it. And then another tag from the kit. Another pressed flower. Now this particular page I think is from a completely different book, but I don't know. I don't know if it's from an encyclopedia. I'm not really sure. But anyway, I thought it was perfect here. So I added it here. It could be torn off though. You could just put a ruler at the edge there and then tear it off if you want to. But I thought this page here too would be so good to like press a flower as well. A lot of stuff is removable. It may take off a little bit of the paper, some of the where I've used tape, but it's, you know, that's the whole like kind of vibe of this anyway. So there's another laminated leaf, and then I added this image here. These are from the pressed flowers, and I just printed them a little bit smaller, 2 to a page, onto tracing paper. And I just love the way that that looks in here. It's just, it's light and airy, almost looks, you know, kind of like a real pressed flowers there. So I really, really like that a lot. And then I have a little belly band there. And some more of my embroidery. I just think that's so pretty. And then I made this tag. That fabric is like a Kathy Holden fabric, I believe. More laminated flowers. So just some pretty things to just, you know, put where you want. So I made a little wax seal with some petals. Now these tags, it should come up, I believe. I think it's tag kit number 2. Well, the bigger tag. But I took an envelope and I embossed the front there for that pocket. And then added a little rose charm. I used some tissue there, a little bit of texture paste. I just love how this book and all of these floral plates, they really blend with the kit. Well, actually all the kits, but they look so good, the coloring. And that is a real pressed pansy. And then there's the pansy card, which kind of is like a little belly band, but that's done with washi. So it would really peel up really easily because that's an authentic document behind, which is like a ledger. Heather does have a digital kit though, fancy ledgers, and you can get that same kind of image there. So for the spread, the center spread on this, I created this really cute, just kind of like rustic pocket. I printed this image here onto fabric, and then I used that to I used it in the spine, which I'll show in a second, and then I just used a little bit of the leftover fabric there. So you'll see it in the spine there. I love this image. It's quite a favorite of mine, but I just kind of roughed it up for that pocket. So it's just printed. I have a video on doing, you know, how I do it, but I just use like a sticker paper is what I use. You'd have to go back and look for that video. I've added like a little, you know, pin there. And then here's an image here, just kind of like tucked into the pocket, But it's a great little spot if you just want some secret journaling, or if you want to put a pressed flower back there, that would be pretty as well. And then I used an old paper bag that kind of like backs. That's the main part of that. The same bag on the front that I had made with the title of the book on the bottom of it, that is what is left over as well from that same bag. And then just tucked some images inside. Made this tag. And then I've taped the pressed flower down. But I love how like they all look, and then, you know, you can see the paper there at the edge, like just peeking out. I just think it's really cute. So you could add, you know, journaling in there, because you could cover this with like a bit of gesso, or you could add more pressed flowers from your own garden. And here's another wax seal that I did. And that's so pretty. It's so pretty. And then I used an authentic prescription page on the front there. And then I just added this laminated kind of like branchy looking thing. I don't know what it is, but that prescription had like authentic tape really on it. That dark tape, that's original to it. And then I just made these tags. So super pretty. I just love it so much. I think Elowyn would be proud. So again, it's so easy. You can just peel that up if you want to remove the floral plate. There's another one of the tracing paper images. And then I believe I extracted that from like a dictionary. It was on ivy, I think, is what it says. I'll show a close-up of it. I just taped it down, and it can kind of basically be like a little belly band, like a miniature one, or, you know, like a little pocket. Isn't that so cute? And then this tag. So what's cool here is I added this piano roll to the back of these tags. And I just love that what it says, when the golden sun shines in the west, then I think of home. I think that's beautiful. And then that flips open. You know, just a little secret spot back there. So here is another little tag, and then my handmade paper tag, and then a pressed flower that I added. And then one of the images, it flips up. That's from the antique botanical prints. I was like, oh, that doesn't go there. There's already one of those in the front. So a big space here for doing whatever, whether you journal or add more pressed flowers. And then I've added a pressed flower here. and more there. And then I did a little bit of like just kind of like abstract stitching on this like rose cluster. And then I did some more embroidery there. Some more images from the smaller pocketbook that I have of flowers. And then I added that fabric, kind of like it's basically like a band, but then also a pocket on the bottom. So kind of like a double pocket. And this is an authentic French document. And then I just pinned the blue flowers there. More images here. And the picture of the girl in the pocket, that is Elowyn's baby sister, Evelyn. And she nicknamed her Twinkle Toes because she's always prancing around. But she loves the flowers and she loves to like snatch them all and just do all sorts of fun stuff and help her big sister press them and things like that. So she included her in her pocket there. So the little tag on the front that was the leaves is just from that bottom portion of the floral there. I just, I try to use everything to make that cute little tag. And then we come to the back. So there's a fabric piece there, probably Elowyn's sleeve that she probably tore or it got old. Another pretty floral image. And then like a fabric patch there, which is from Kathy Holden's, one of her kits, one of her floral fabrics. And then that opens up and then there's a clip at the back with a real authentic wallpaper on the back. And then it's, just kind of like taped and aged and there's gold and all that. That's an authentic card. And then this is from the kit, the Botanist. And I just, attach some things to it. Just extra writing space. And then inside this old envelope, I created this bookmark. So it's just made up of all kinds of different, scraps that I've put together and an authentic flower that is dried. And, if it ever breaks or falls, you can just replace it. And then a paint chip on the back that I embossed with several different patterns. And I just thought that would be, nice to just kind of move around if you happen to journal in it or have an area where you're working and then, to move the bookmark around in it. I just think it's so cute. And again, a great way to use up scraps. And of course, I always have extra things. So here are some dried petals with a little bit of gold, like gold shards, tinsel-y kind of stuff. So really super cute. And then I love how this leaf was like the shape of a heart. And then here is some lavender on my handmade paper there. And then I made a bunch of like little just assorted from the from my label maker, just some other things that, might be useful in the journal to, peel off the back and then stick them on there. And then, reuse the tags in some way. And it's okay if it's got holes at the top or grungy. You can always shorten it if you want to. And then just lots of like little, things inside to utilize in the journal. Things that I think that, Elowyn would have had on hand, to add when she wanted, when she was working in her book and, wanted to add things. So I hope you enjoyed this. I hope it inspires you, and I hope you'll create something as well. So thank you so much, and I will see you